you want any chance at all of winning any sport involving grappling, you have to know about shooting. Two things to know. It's a takedown that closes distance. That's kind of rare. A lot of takedowns, you need to have a grip on them first. The second thing to know is that it is a way to cover distance from the striking position into the grappling position. It is not only a takedown technique, but it is a way of initiating a grappling exchange, as you see here. The Jason Mayhem Miller is now forced to grapple with George St. Pierre. Now, here's usually what happens when someone decides to shoot. So, Pete San Antonio is the guy on the right, and he is going to shoot. What he's going to do first is change his level. So notice he's now lower down than when he started. A bend at the knees to prepare himself to go for his next target, which is going to be this guy's legs. He wants to grab a hold of both legs. So watch what happens here. He's going to dash forward, grab both the legs, and he's now entered the grappling exchange. Now from this position, a couple things are going to happen. Pete wants to charge forward to create the energy to take this guy off of his feet. Now, while you're charging, you're gonna scoop his legs to the side. By using your arms, you're gonna try to scoop his legs out from under him as you drive. And then the final touch of this formula is we're going to use our head as a third arm and push with it in the opposite direction that you're scooping in from the legs. These scissor effects create the takedown when combined with the charge. Now, what kind of stance you start your double leg in depends greatly. As you see here, George is standing completely upright because he has to strike. And from there, he's going to go in for the double leg. So that will be one kind of double leg takedown. The other kind is when you start in your wrestling stance, and then we're in the sport of wrestling, and all I have to worry about is wrestling, no striking involved. So that's that kind of double. Here's the major difference. In the MMA version, you don't really touch your knee to the mat. There's too many counters, there's too many variables to touch the knee down, so you usually just dive right in. With some of those variables removed, like getting kneed or punched in the face, most often in folk-style wrestling, they will touch their knee to the mat. That becomes part of that technique. And then from there, they do the following. They charge, drive their head to the side, and scoop the legs, as we talked about. Now, that's not to say that you'll never drop down to a knee to shoot in MMA or vice versa in wrestling without dropping the knee down, but it's just a general rule that you can usually look for when it comes to someone's technique. Now, there are two categories of techniques that you can get after shooting. There is the double leg takedown, as you're seeing here. And this is really categorized as you got both of their legs. You got a grip around both legs, and now you're going to initiate the takedown. The second version of this, what can happen after shooting, is the single leg. And here you see he's got one of the legs, and he's going to get the takedown from there. That was a nice takedown. So, both can be used after shooting. And I will be talking more about technique and finishes for both doubles and singles in my later videos. But for now, let's look at what can happen after you finish a double leg. So, in an absolute ideal world, Pete is going to lift this guy up off of his feet, he's going to slam him down, and he's going to pass his guard as he takes him down. That puts him in the most pristine position. The second thing that could happen is you take somebody down and you end up in their guard. That's still pretty good, but it's less ideal, right? But it's still good. A third thing you should be prepared for is you go in for the takedown, but you know what? He's still on his feet and his hips are too strong, and you know what? You just can't seem to get him down. A lot of the times you can just transition up to the high clinch, which we'll be talking about in a different instructional. But from the high clinch, you've initiated a grappling exchange, and there's all kinds of techniques that you can do from here. So you can choose to go here. Now, I see what happens most often is that someone goes in for the double leg, like Jordan Burroughs is going to do here. And the opponent does the defense to shooting, which is a sprawl. When someone sprawls, they drop their hips down and they kick their legs back, so you can't get under their center of gravity and you can't get that beautiful scoop that you want. Now, this position I call the low clinch. Notice the guy is on top and Jordan Burroughs is on bottom, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to be done here from Jordan Burroughs' perspective. Oftentimes what will happen from this low kind of clinch position is you will get just an absolute dogfight. The one guy's trying to take the other guy down. The other guy's not trying to let it happen. He's trying to stay up. And it's just a big, exhausting scramble a lot of the times. And finally, a fifth thing that could happen is it could just be a total failure. You get sprawled on, you end up on your back, and now you are really sad. So, to prevent that from happening, you are going to need some killer setups, which I will be bringing to you in part 2 of this video. So, keep an eye out for that.